Hello, and welcome back. Thank you, as always, for joining me here and for taking the time out to pay attention to your spiritual practice, whatever that may look like for you, and whatever role A Course in Miracles may play in that for you, if any, actually. People that watch this series of videos are course students and non-course students alike. So if you clicked on this, it somehow appeared in your algorithm and you clicked on this, wondering what it's all about. Well, there's a message here for you from the Holy Spirit. There's a message here for you from your right mind. In other words, because the Holy Spirit is not a foreign or external power, it's part of our mind. It's part of you. We're all invited to listen to this part, and it's this part of us that's speaking, that gives these presentations. This is nothing, really. Nothing special at all. So it makes no difference whether you're a longtime student of A Course in Miracles or whether you're a beginning student or anywhere in between, or even if you are not a student of this course. Let's dive right into a conversation about light, dark, and forgiveness. Shall we do that? Nothing less than that. Yeah, because nothing less will do. We're all apparently here. This very conversation appears to be happening because we've grown way too accustomed to the darkness. In other words, we've grown way too accustomed, habituated, indoctrinated into wrong mindedness. In other words, we don't see things as they really are. And we mistake what we appear to see for reality itself. We think this is real. In other words, we think this is who we are. Really? You know that's not accurate. You know it's not true. You're interested in spirituality. If you had not at least once, and I'm willing to bet it's a lot more than once, formulated the thought that there's more to life, that there's more to your experience than simply getting up in the morning, eating, drinking water, going to sleep and going to the bathroom and checking your email and paying some bills and rushing off to work, or if you work from home, turning the computer on or picking up the telephone and doing work and doing all this stuff, cleaning the house, feeding the dog, maybe going to the gym or something later. I don't know. All this stuff, there's more to it than that. Yeah, yeah, naturally. Of course there is. We've grown so accustomed to not seeing things as they are that we mistake all of our illusions for reality itself. Illusion, not reality itself, which I know you know. Of course you do. You may be familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave, and we see something quite like that here in chapter 25, section 6 of the text of the course, which we're talking about today. And the course puts it this way: eyes that have grown so accustomed to darkness are pained by the light. They're not used to the light. So its brilliance and radiance can seem painful. In Plato's allegory of the cave, there are prisoners bound in chains facing a dark wall of a cave. They're not facing the opening, in other words, to the cave. They're facing the cave wall, and the sun is shining behind them and casts, and as the sun shines on the prisoners, they cast shadows against the cave wall and mistake these shadows for reality. When and if they turn around, they may be terrified of the light, blinded, pained. They'll want to shrink in horror right back to the comfort zone that's highly uncomfortable, to what they're used to what they're accustomed to, or to put it another way, what smells familiar. Exactly. It's the same thing. In fact, an allegory is often, by definition, has a deep metaphorical, deep philosophical or spiritual meaning. Yeah. Yeah. So accustomed to the darkness that the light pains us, and we wish to shrink from it and retreat back into our cave and look at the cave wall. See 8 billion of these running around doing battle the way that we've always done. Why? I don't know. That's the way it is. Really? No, it's not. You know that. You know that. So when A Course in Miracles talks about light, what it's referring to is not necessarily visible light, as in the sun shining through the opening of the cave, and as it hits the back of the prisoners bound in chains by their own choice. Actually, they're really loose chains. They could, they could take them off. Hmm? Anyway, as the sun shines upon them and casts a shadow, they're afraid to look at the sun. And A Course in Miracles refers to light as right-mindedness. In other words, when we make the choice, and I promise you, it is your choice to make right now, to see with the Holy Spirit rather than the ego. That's the choice that we all get to make right now, gonna make, whether you think you're making it or not. Dismissing this message, you just made the choice. Hmm. Choose not to decide, just made the choice. Back to the cave. Hmm? I mean, really, we have this choice right now. Light refers to right-mindedness, seeing things as they are. It is a choice. We can all choose right now to see with the Holy Spirit, with our inner teacher, with this part of our mind that speaks for God, the voice for God as it's known by. And by the way, the pronoun it is wholly and completely appropriate to refer to the Holy Spirit. Of course, the Holy Spirit goes by the masculine pronouns he and him here as a matter of convention, nothing more. In A Course in Miracles, it's an it, isn't it? Not a human being. Guess what? Neither are we. Yeah, I know. You know that. Spirit, don't worry. If that feels weird to you, or even wrong, well, you're on the path. Happens to all of us. This course aims to help us, to have us turn around to the light and take those ridiculously loose-fitting chains off you. You can drop them. They're not even real. So, what exactly is right-mindedness? Well, it's seeing things as they are. A Course in Miracles is a self-study curriculum. As such, it gives us something to do. It is not pure theology, not at all. It gives you something very definite to do right now. Forgive. This course has as its practical centerpiece forgiveness. And it's known by a couple of different names, but true forgiveness is what we're talking about here. Not forgiveness as the world sees it, that maintains a sense of separation, but actually choosing to look upon every living thing, i.e., your brother, singular, with the Holy Spirit, to see everyone as they really are, to see yourself, in other words, as you really are, because it's the same, literally, to see the world for what it is, actually, what it is not, to see things as they are. In the practice of true forgiveness, we see our brother as the Holy Spirit sees our brother, the Son of God, the extension of God, the thought of God, like to God, one with God. Get it? Who are you? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You've always known. Oh, you'll hear that again. And whether it's from this pixelated image on your screen or another, you will hear that again. Let that permeate your mind. Deep down, you have always known who you are. You know what you are. You do. You know. Of course you do. You know where you are, too. It's not bound in chains facing the back end of a cave wall. So, ready to go out into the sunlight? Good. I'll meet you there. There's a lot that happens here in the dream, isn't there? I mean, it's very easy to feel completely burdened, bound in chains, overwhelmed, like darkness is all around you, looking at the back of the cave wall. Yeah. It's easy to feel completely overwhelmed. And as such, it's very common to feel like there's really nothing that you can do about it. What can one person do? Well, everything, as it turns out. All we have is right now. Oh my God. Sounds obvious. And A Course in Miracles is certainly not the only spiritual tradition to posit that we only have the present moment. I know, the obvious. You might rightly ask, why then do we live our lives anywhere but the present? And we dwell on the past, And we obsess over future events that, of course, often don't even come to pass. We can all relate to obsessing and worrying a lot about something that never happened. Never happens. Yeah. Yet we spend almost all of our time dwelling on the past or obsessing over the future. We're invited to return to the present moment. Sounds familiar? Yeah, should be. It's right now that we can choose forgiveness instead of condemn. We can choose to forgive rather than blame. We can choose love instead of fear, in other words. We can choose the Holy Spirit instead of the ego. We can choose truth instead of illusion, light instead of dark, right-mindedness instead of wrong-mindedness. Wrong-mindedness sees everything as separate. You as an ego, an individual self-sustaining survival unit, competing with all of your other colleagues, enemies, friends, competition, separation, guilt and blame, hatred, rage, and fear, all of the stuff that is so burdensome to us day to day, as we think we're a prisoner bound in chains, facing the back end of the cave wall. When we choose to see with the Holy Spirit, we turn around. We do a perceptual 180. We're not seeing things as they are. This course will help you to see them as they are. That, completely clarifying your perception, is in fact a requirement. There is no awakening without it. You may have glimpses, of course, and many of you have. Many of you have had beautiful experiences, uplifting, mind-blowing. Yeah, I mean, they're beyond words. If you've had them, you'll know, right? If you haven't, don't worry about it. Who's to say you won't? It could be happening right now. But what we all must realize is that until we learn to see things completely 100% as they are, there's no awakening, enlightenment, liberation, any of that. We all want the peace of God, but we must meet its conditions first. It doesn't dawn on a mind that thinks it's separate from what appear to be other minds. That doesn't mean anything. There's one mind. So we train ourselves to this. We habituate ourselves to this. We attenuate ourselves to this. We change our mind. We do this under the calm, loving, powerful, very powerful, and certain guidance of the Holy Spirit, whom you're invited to appeal to for guidance, for support, for help at all times. Every time you remember to do it, any time you remember to forgive is the perfect time. Now, it appears that because if we turn around, again, following the allegory of the cave, which is a perfect illustration for our learning purposes, isn't it? If turning around into the blinding sunlight is going to be too much for you, the Holy Spirit's not going to have you do that. That's why most of us appear to get a process, a gradual program, in other words, of forgiveness, of awakening. Because the Holy Spirit knows what you're capable of at any given time. And if turning around abruptly, shedding your chains and walking out into the blazing sunlight with your eyes wide open when you're not used to, it's going to freak you out, cause you to plunge off an existential cliff in terror and dread, then that's not going to be what you're called to do in this moment. You might be called to just turn your head a little bit. Open your eyes just a little tiny bit. Guess what? That's a lot. Every single act of forgiveness is equally as powerful as another. Can't forgive a historical dictator right now or a war or something like that? Good. Forgive the cloud that just blotted out the sun. It's just as powerful. It's the same. Chapter 1 of the text famously starts off with the principles of miracles. The very first sentence, the course leads with this. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. And if you looked at that for the first time, you may recall thinking, okay, what does that even mean? It means there are no levels at all. Nothing, nothing at all is better or worse than anything else. There's no separation of any kind. Every miracle, every act of forgiveness is just as powerful as any other. So if you feel that you can't just shed your chains, turn around, do a 180, and walk right out into the sunlight because it's too blinding or too threatening, really. I mean, that's okay. Do what you're called to do. The Holy Spirit will know. He won't have you do the complete 180 right now if you're not ready for it. That would hardly be kind and loving to induce great fear. So that's not going to happen. You're going to get a process. We're in it right now, where you just turn your head a little bit, allow yourself to see just a little bit more sunlight. Forgive one more person, one more thing. Start with what you're called to do right now. The Holy Spirit will show you. Ask Him, ask it for help. And along the way, you're more than welcome to ask what appear to be human beings like this for help. The comment thread here, in fact, on YouTube is the perfect place to ask a question. If you have a question, I'd love to hear from you because it benefits everybody. It really does. Your questions have a far-reaching impact. This is a global community. It's international and it's growing every day. So why not, right? Your question may be a question that someone else on the other side of the world has too. I mean, it's like we're sitting in class as kids, and one person raises their hand and asks a question, and then you hear an audible sigh of profound relief because 19 other people had the same question, but one person asked. Yeah. Just saying. We're often hesitant to ask questions because we feel like we should already know the answers. Well, and here's the deal here in the world. You don't know what you don't know. There's no such thing as a dumb question, that's for sure. This is spirituality, it's deep self-inquiry. And we've all been conditioned to think we're prisoners in chains that can't get out and walk into the sunlight, even though the chains are extremely loosely fitting. In fact, they fall off all the time, and we pick them up and put them back on because we're used to them. So comfy. Oh, oh, no. We don't have to continue to do that. You don't have to continue to see yourself as an ego. You don't have to continue to judge and condemn and blame your brother, as tempting as it may be. I mean, right? You don't have to continue to see things upside down and backwards. You could exchange the darkness for the light right now, and I invite you to do just that. Now, I mean, I'm serious about the questions. If you have them, please feel welcome to leave them here. And if you have not yet subscribed and joined us, please do that as well. The prompt is over here, that icon that you've been looking at. In the corner of your screen is the subscription prompt. Just hit that and you'll be invited to join us. There's always something to talk about. For that reason, several videos appear every week, and I will see you again on the next one. Thank you again for tuning in here.